Hello. This is Miss Andrea, and I'm a veteran homeschooler and blogger, and I run a homeschool program and I write homeschool curriculum. I used to do these lives often, and I just got busy with my homeschool program and with my curriculum publishing uh, company, and also worked on my master's degree for a year and a half. But I'm here, nothing to do, and thought I would answer some homeschool questions. So I invite anyone who is watching to ask a homeschool question, but in the meanwhile, I am going to answer questions that are online. And I'm just going to type that in right here. Okay, so go ahead and read the note. Like I said, I'm going to answer any homeschool questions you have. You can just put them in chat. In the meanwhile, I am going to be reading questions online, particularly from Reddit. So let's go ahead and get started. And it says here, I am at a crossroad. I need some advice. My kids are 6 and almost 4. It's always been our plan to homeschool. My oldest goes to a forest school 3 times a week for a few hours, and my youngest is home with me. I've been home for 6 years. I've taken jobs here and there, but nothing really. My husband works from home. About 6 months ago, I took a job working every other weekend, plus picking up here and there. But I'm getting incredibly burned out. I'm only getting 4 days a month, if that, where my husband is off. I'm not the primary parent or working. Those 4 days are jam-packed with everything we want to do throughout the month. It's wearing me down. I'm frustrated that my only option for employment is off hours on weekends. Every job I've ever had, I work in healthcare, is off hours, weekends, holidays. So basically, I'm working full time with my kids during the week and then going to my part-time job on the weekend. There just doesn't seem like there's good balance. Is it better to work full time, a normal 9 to 5, and have someone watch our youngest, but then get actual days off? But then I'm missing out on our prime schooling years. Is it best to just suck it up because on paper it's perfect, but in reality I'm suffering? We've been a single income family for so long, but I'm really enjoying being able to afford life with a little extra income. Any advice? There are so many problems here. The family dynamic, first of all, is just off balance. Second of all, if you're having any reservations about homeschooling, you shouldn't be homeschooling. Um, Children need all in. Third, during my prime homeschooling years, the years when I was actively homeschooling my own children instead of counseling other people through homeschooling, it was sacrificial. I never got rest. I was either homeschooling or running an online business, or being a church leader. And I got my rest on Sunday afternoons, the end. On Sunday afternoons, I would come up from church, 2 o'clock, get in bed, and sleep the rest of the day. That was the only rest I had. I was willing to do that. For me, that was an ideal situation. Um, but if you don't think that's an ideal situation, because on paper, like she said, it makes good sense. She has time to homeschool and work, but she's running, 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 running. And if that's not going to work for you, then do not do it. Finally, homeschooling a 4 to 6 year old. Whenever we talk about homeschooling a 4 to 6 year old, I kind of roll my eyes because it's just not that big a deal. It's no different than taking care of your kids. Homeschooling doesn't get real until third or fourth grade. Before that, you're teaching them the basics: tie your shoes, bathroom hygiene, alphabet, counting, um, early reading, and some basic writing, and then very basic math and counting. So, is the question really about homeschooling, or is the question really about a lopsided family dynamic where mom is feeling neglected, taken advantage of, overworked, and she sees homeschooling coming down the pike and realizing that she's never going to have any peace? Probably. Probably. That's probably what the issue is. Okay, let's see what else we have. What age did you start a formal curriculum? Hi, everyone. First time posting here, and I'm not all sure what I should be doing to set ourselves up for success. FTM to 9-month-old twin boys. Female to male to 9-month-old twin boys? No, full-time mother. I hate acronyms. Full-time mother to 9-year-old twin boys. I plan on homeschooling them for at least the next 10 years due to my husband's work moving us around frequently. Makes sense. I did a few years of homeschooling myself and have the experience as a teacher's aide for many years, along with other child-oriented educational programs. I'm confident in my ability to engage with children, but I have never had to manage and establish the curriculum myself. What were your first steps to get homeschooling started in your homes? I know they're still too young for formal education. Absolutely. But I'd like to lay the foundation today so that we can ease into a structured learning environment tomorrow. We are incorporating Montessori and Waldorf ideologies for now, but I don't have any formal structure or long-term plan set yet. All advice greatly appreciated. It sounds like you know what you're doing. So if they're 9 months old, you're going to homeschool for 10 years. You're going to homeschool till they're 9. I would definitely just stick to a Montessori approach, and some really good parenting books. Back in the day, there was a series of books called What to Expect When You're Expecting. And it was followed by What to Expect from Your Toddler, What to Expect from Your Preschooler, What to Expect, up to kindergarten. And then from there, I liked a series called What Your Kindergartner needs to know, what your first grade needs to know, what your second grade needs to know. And it goes through 5th grade. And it's literally just literature you should read to your child, nursery rhymes your child should learn, what milestones you need to hit in counting and math and alphabet and spelling and writing. And it's just milestone books. And it's a really good way to pace them. The author of the second set of books I mentioned, What Your Blank Grader Needs to Know, is by E.D. Hirsch, and it's actually a Common Core guide for younger children. So, yeah, I just think this person just wants someone to say, yes, you're right. Get some books on milestones that your children need to hit. And then when they get to preschool age, get the what your preschool needs to know, what your first grade needs to know. And just, go through those casually. Homeschooling little children doesn't have to be this big, like, fire hydrant, sit at a desk, we're going to play school type thing. Just teach them. And those books just have really good outlines and really good checklists and things of what your kids need to know. They're easy to follow and not a big deal at all. Okay. Okay, this question says PSA. Use the public school grade. Homeschooling parents. When it comes to signing your children up for activities, camps, or lessons, just go by the grade your child would be in if they attended public school. For kids, it can be embarrassing or isolating for them to not know what grade they are in when other kids ask. This is a social construct. Just teach them their grade in order to help their social skills. You might think it's cute for the kid to go, oh, well, I do fifth grade math, but I'm in fourth grade for reading. But no one cares about their math curriculum when they ask that. When you sign up for summer camp, they don't actually care what your child did, fifth grade reading curriculum. They just want your kid to be with a similar age group. They could go by ages, and some places do. But because the grade level system is in place for so many other things, it makes sense for those groups. In public private schools, when your children are working above or below grade level, your child isn't especially unique because they are doing fourth grade math at 8 years old. Are they not? In addition to that, don't place your kids above their grade level. Just because your child is working above grade level in math or reading doesn't mean that your 8-year-old has a maturity to join fifth through sixth grade woodworking class, or for your 4-year-old to join a K-2 group. Set your kids up for success unless your child is taking an academic class and is actually at that academic level. Keep them with their public school grade. Okay, so the public service announcement tone is really annoying and condescending. On the other hand, they're not wrong. I run a homeschool program, and I have had parents bringing their children 2 to 3 years below um, my what 2 to 3 years aged below the typical age for my entry level. For example, when my entry level was middle school, they would bring me a 9-year-old and tell me they were doing middle school work. And sometimes they were. And sometimes they weren't showing me in any way that they could actually function on that level. The last one I had that was just too young for my group was 9, and our students were starting at 6th grade. He did understand the assignments. He didn't write very well, but cognitively he understood and could keep the conversation. But he annoyed the snot out of all the other children because we'd be having a mature conversation about history, and he'd fix it on a word that didn't have a mature connotation. However, he would fixate on it and tell us that, well, this conversation isn't age appropriate. It is age appropriate, sir. You are not age appropriate. So, like I said, the whole tone of the question I read is condescending when it says, no one cares that your child can function at a higher grade level when you bring them to a camp or a class. Put them with their age grade kids. It's really condescending. But in my experiences, put them with their maturity age students. Make sure your child has the maturity to hang out with a 7th grader if you're putting them in with 7th graders. Okay, so I have a question, and it's an old favorite of mine. Good evening. Do you have any writing tips for grade 5 reluctant? Yes. I find that when they start getting close to middle school and fifth grade is we're getting close. They get really self critical, and they don't want to write poorly, so they won't write at all. What I have done is first you go online and you get a template for um, the hamburger template for writing an essay. And basically, it's you have your buns. Your upper bun is your intro paragraph. Your lower bun is your summary paragraph. And then there's three layers like of meat or vegetables or whatever. And those are your subtopics. So, yes, start with a template. But what I do is I grab a paper and I say, we're going to write together. Um, and I ask them a question and they answer it. And I write it down and I ask them another question and they answer it. And I write it down and, I ask them a question and I answer it. And then I read it back to them and I say, look what you wrote, and then I say, okay, well, let's write an introduction. How would we introduce what we just wrote? And they tell me and I write it down. And then I say, cool, let's sum it up. And I say, let's reiterate what we have here. And they do. And I write it down. Sometimes the physical act of writing it down, plus the mental gymnastics of giving you the information, is too much altogether. And so what I just described is called transcribing. Transcribe for your child. Fifth grade, don't worry about different types of writing. Just get them writing. The biggest mistake I made with my own daughter, and actually my business partner made it with her son, is our kids were third or fourth grade and they were writing everything in rhyme, and we asked them not to do that. And they stopped writing because we broke their flow. Let them get their writing out on paper. Do that for a good 3 or 4 months, and then go to them and say, this is really good writing. Let's try to do something more focused. Or let's get some highlighters out, 3 colors, and highlight, anything you wrote that talks about this part of the subject, anything you wrote that talks about this part of the subject, and anything you wrote that talks about that part of the subject. And so now we've got 3 colors of highlighting. Like, say they're talking about King George, and part of it is when he was born, and part of it is when he was died, and part of it is the horrible things he did. And so each of those things will be a different color, but on their paper, it'll all be mixed and jumbled together because that's normal for young children. And so now you can pull apart those colors and show them how to rewrite. When we get to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, if they're still having that hesitancy, yes, you should just focus on writing and not all the types of writing. You have a couple of years to worry about that. But as I was about to say, when I get to those grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, when they should be starting to do that, if they're still hesitant, and this is a weird way to say it, but I got in a couple of kids' faces and said, write me the worst paper you possibly can write. Make it suck, make it bad, write me a bad paper. And they write the paper and I read it and I go, this is good. Just to show them that they can write. And it is good, it is. But it's more of an emotional hesitancy that they're dealing with. So help them get through with it. Final idea, I have some dyslexic students and we do voice to text. Most computers have, you can do a plug-in and get voice to text and just let them talk. But start by transcribing so they'll get used to it and then move on to voice to text. Thank you so much for stopping by and asking. I really appreciate you. Okay. Cool beans. Okay, let's see. What other questions do I have? self-homeschooling. How important do I think math facts are? Very, 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 did I say very important? What I am finding is that children are getting stuck in late arithmetic right before pre-algebra. And it's not that they don't understand the math concepts, it's that they don't have their math facts ingrained. And if they have to remember the math concepts and still take time to reason through the math facts, they're going to completely nope out of math. So middle school years, I would still start every math lesson with a page of addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division facts. Every day, just call it a warm up. And that's going to help them continue to practice their math facts so that when they slide into pre-algebra, it's not so hard of a struggle. Okay? That's my answer to how important I think math facts are. Okie dokie. All right. So, yes. Thank you. So, self-homeschooling. I deal with this a lot, y'all. It says, I'm 18 and I dropped out of school mid-junior year. I wanted to do a situation where I homeschool myself and I do it as the student and the teacher. I live on my own. I'm in Texas and I don't have the money to do online school or go to a co-op program. Would I be able to sign my own diploma? How would I go about doing anything like that? Does the state ask for proof of course completion for things in a transcript? It is a lot, but I need to get this and go to college. So no. You can self-homeschool, but it's gotta be with parental oversight. It's got to. The homeschool laws say that a parent has to oversee and sign off on homeschooling. So that's a conversation you have to have with a parent and or guardian. Can you learn on your own and get your knowledge up to par? Absolutely. No one can ever stop you from learning. But they can stop you from getting a homeschool diploma because a parent has to be involved. And I recommend you just go on Khan Academy and you watch the videos and test yourself through all of that knowledge. It's free school online. You can do that. And maybe you can get a parent to sign off on that and give you the diploma. And you'll have all the printouts of how much time you spent in Khan Academy on each subject and things like that. Outside of that, if that is not possible, still go online, get confident in your education, get your math up to par, do the grammar lesson, do a little bit of American history and science, and then sign up for your GED. Sign up for your general equivalency diploma. If you are 18 and you dropped out of school and your parents are not going to help, you're going to have to get your GED. Yep, and that's how that works. Okay? What else do we have? This parent says, really started school with my 5-year-old, need ideas. So we started school with my 5-year-old 4-ish weeks ago. We do 1 hour of work before lunch. Yes. In 3 weeks, he was able to write. Yes. And absolutely loves math. We are now working on reading and sight words. Does anyone have good tips for this? Formal curriculum doesn't need presented in PA until first grade. So I have some time before I really have anything set. But I really just wanted to help keep him interested, and I'm not very creative. Um, you're doing a good job, but I hate sight words. I hate sight words. Can I say it again? I hate sight words. Get a good phonics program. I suggest Reading Rabbit and or Head Sprout. I think Head Sprout costs like $100 for like a 3-month subscription, and Reading Rabbit still exists and it's a subscription. Um, the problem with sight words is kids learn to say the words, they learn to recognize the words, but at a certain point they start guessing when they see similar bigger words, and it starts falling apart. And even with phonics, you run into problems with comprehension because they can say anything, but they may not know what it means. So I'm going to recommend a strong phonics program, but also slow down. I know a lot of people who did hooked on phonics and things of that nature and had their 2-year-old reading. And by first grade, that had completely fallen apart. Don't overload your child. Make sure they've met all their growth and emotional, social emotional milestones first before you start cramming uh, school stuff down their throat. I don't know anything about alphaphonics. Um, is it new? Alphaphonics. It's a book. I like books. Books are cool. A primer for beginning readers. Oh, it reminds me of the old school primers, which is kind of cool. They don't have a look inside. Take advantage of it. Okay. Yeah. Sorry to throw a wrench in that one. But it was so bad. It was so bad. It was 10 years ago. It was so bad. Okay. Other people recommend thephonics.page.org, donpotter.net. Someone loves a digital program called Teach Your Monster to Read. There's something called Beast Academy. I've been hearing about that lately. But remember, make sure they're meeting their social and emotional milestones along with their academic milestones, because at some point, maturity and certain subjects kind of go hand in hand. And if you're forcing subjects that require certain maturity, your kid's going to know about a school. Okay. I'm just going to do this for maybe like another 15 minutes, and then I'm going to call it a night. Let's see. This is on homeschooling. Cheating. Need academic advice. Sorry, my neck is stiff. Okay. Guys, I need to admit something and would also like some advice. Uh-oh. I've been in online school for the past maybe 4 to 5 years or so. I've on and off cheated, but I haven't cheated all those years or all the time, but I did a lot of cheating throughout most of my school years. And this year, I realized that I really value my education and would like to become a scientist. But I've been cheating in school. I want to stop and study and be more disciplined. I've been studying a lot more, and I've taken initiative to restudy chemistry, biology, math, and even German. But I'm just wondering how I can have discipline in school and do better and stop cheating. I don't always cheat, but I mostly do. I'm specifically trying to keep up with algebra and physics. That one AP class I have, I don't cheat in my AP. I do pretty well. That's pretty cool. But I do slack a lot. I also want to be a scientist in the future. Extra backstory. I was put in homeschool in first grade, been in online school for maybe a few years, never paid attention to school a lot of the times. I know I can learn and be better. I've been proving that to myself. But I have gaps in my learning, wondering how I'm going to fill them in time. I want to go to university after graduation. Wow, that's an interesting dilemma. But let me tell you something. Public school kids cheat a lot and they still do okay. Um, I'm not saying keep cheating. Definitely stop doing that. But what you need to do is go online and really test yourself. Like, go online, and I'm going to say Khan Academy again. Go online, go to khanacademy.com and test yourself through the subjects that you've been cheating in. And then that will tell you how much of it you really know and what questions that you can't answer. And then go on YouTube and start watching videos. I like Crash Course and other videos that explain these topics. And when you feel like you've covered all of the topics that you know that you were cheating on, when you feel like you've watched enough videos to a point where the questions you couldn't answer in your self-imposed final exam, you feel like you've answered them, take a final exam again. And that's how you would go about filling holes that you have created by cheating. Once again, all kids cheat a little. You know it's wrong. You know you want to be a scientist. It's time for you to be a know-it-all. Um, start. You're literally going to have to spend as much time doing independent study as you are currently spending studying um, your online school to make up for it. And if you're in your current classes, if you're having a problem with those, also go online and watch videos to help explain anything you might be missing. So I'm going to try and sum this up. This person says, I do online school and I've been cheating for 4 or 5 years. And I realized that I want to be a scientist. And so now I've missed a lot of stuff because I've been cheating. So what do? Stop cheating. Go to Khan Academy and test yourselves through subjects that you know you cheated a lot in. Figure out what you know and you don't know. Watch online videos. Give yourself another final exam. As for your current classes, if you find yourself getting stuck and that you have a hole, go online and watch videos to help close those holes. But yeah, you're going to have to study extra hard, but I bet you're going to make a good scientist one day once you stop cheating completely. Okie dokie. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments. In the meanwhile, I'm just reading wild homeschool questions off of Reddit. So let's see what else we can find. That one was fun. Oh, okay, this is coming. So this parent says, my 8th grade ADHD son has been excessively bullied for the past 2 years. This year, he reached his boiling point and has been having extreme outbursts. The school resource officer was pulled in twice last month, and he was charged with multiple juvenile charges. He, along with us, are angered by the school's lack of response to the bullying, but we had to pull him out for homeschooling because he wound up in juvenile detention. According to multiple school assessments through his IEP, he is a low IQ child, around 75 to 80%, so we really hated pulling him out, to be honest. He wasn't spending much time in class anyway due to expulsions and in-school suspensions. When in class, he couldn't pay attention because he was worried who was going to bully him next. He was already failing half his classes anyway. Luckily, my job is work from home with a flexible schedule. We chose time for learning. Love it. Love it. and he is pretty good about completing his work each day. The problem is he is still failing. His quizzes/tests have grades of 10 to 50%, with some at 90% scores as well. We can't figure out how to reset quizzes tests so we can review what he struggled with. I need to drink something. And allow him another chance. And it's empty. I know the state of Kentucky doesn't require you to report their homeschool grades, but we don't want him to fail his curriculum. Even though his rural Kentucky school was unable to provide him a quality education, we certainly want to. What do you do if you have to homeschool, but your child is failing homeschool? I started out my homeschool journey using Time for Learning. The guy who started it is now retired, but I'm pretty sure this is still the way he works. Just get on the phone and call them and explain to them your situation and tell them that you need to take your 8th grade child and put him in 5th or 6th grade. Chances are your child has a lot of holes and they need to back up before you move them forward. And the cool thing about Time for Learning is that your child can accelerate through whatever they find easy. Our first year using Time for Learning way back in the day, my daughter was first grade. Second grade. And she was finished with second grade by Christmas. And we started 3rd grade in January. And she was finished that by Easter. So I would back him up a couple of years, and hopefully he does know a lot of that stuff and accelerates through it quickly, because that's going to raise his confidence and give him a win. And then he'll be more confident in his schoolwork, and maybe he'll focus better. Also, get your child reassessed by a private IEP person and find out if there's something more specific going on, like a dyslexia issue, an eye tracking issue, maybe some high-level autism and things like that, so that you can get the proper interventions for your child to give them the tools to work at the higher level. Okay? Nope, I don't have any water over here. So I'm running out of throat. I'm going to do one more question unless someone listening has another question for me. How often will you do a live? Bruh. I really would love to do a live on the weekends, but the only reason I got to do this live is because my husband is on a business trip, because he likes my full attention on the weekends. But this is the perfect time. Saturday at 6 p.m. is really the perfect time for me to do a live. And I'm going to say I want to do it twice a month. My channel is changing, if you've seen my last video, because all those old homeschool advice videos are a little outdated. And my business partner and I have started another channel, Cheese Press Publishing. And you can find that on YouTube, Cheese Press Publishing. And so we're going to be going through all those old topics. Thank you so much. Years, thank you so much. We're going to be going through all those old topics and updating them with new and pertinent advice. For me, a veteran homeschooler, and for her, an active homeschooler. And so look out for that. So this channel will mostly be just answering questions and maybe some personal home stuff. So Rock My Braids says, are you familiar with Minnesota homeschooling? I believe I'm supposed to be keeping records, but not sure how to do it. I started when he was about 7, and he will be 9. Thank you, love for all. I keep putting messages on my existing videos and say, hey, when's the live? Because you can make me do it. I'll do it if you force me. I'm just going to type in Minnesota homeschooling real fast. Requirements. Okay, school required for ages 7 to 17. Notification required, yes. Teacher qualifications, yes. Mandated state subjects, yes. Assessment requirements, yes. Immunization requirements, yes. For homeschooling, for real? Well, keep good records. Evaluate your child annually. Oh, my state is every 3 years. Notify your district that you are homeschooling. Okay. So, rock my braids. How have you been teaching him? Have you been using books or online programs or anything like that to homeschool? Because if you have, you can just get all those books and photocopy the table of contents and just write notes in that. He studied this, he studied that. If you have any final exams that you've kept over the years, take those and put those in a folder with the table of contents from each book. Oh, so right now I'm doing Excelis with her, and I am not okay with doing immunizations. How do you get around that in your state? I was really surprised to see that they care because you're teaching at home. For me, back in the day, back in Georgia, I was okay with immunizing, but I wasn't okay with multiple immunizations at a time. And I would force the doctors to give only one shot at a time. So my kids were going to college and still getting their last shots because I really spread them out. Okay, you can get a note from the doctor. Cool beans. I was doing everything by handwriting. Curriculum for her. Excelis, I believe, keeps great records. So all you have to do is print those and put them in a folder. Anything you are doing by hand, just to the best of your ability. Yes. To the best of your ability, just try to reverse engineer that and just get a notebook, journal as much of that as you can. And from here out, just keep records. I recommend that every homeschooler have one of those IKEA type cube shelves. They used to call them expedites, but they've changed names from time to time. And the cubes are 13 by 13 inches. And then you get a little bin that slides in that's 13 by 13 by 13, I think. And it takes 2 or 3 years to fill one of those. So you only need like a 4 cube. And just everything just goes in there. Any math they've done, any writing they've done, any science they've done, if they do something online, if you have readouts online, print screen that every so often and throw that in there. It's not that big a deal. And then at the end of the year, and I'm looking around because I used to have a bookshelf behind me with all of my kids' homeschool things, but my kids are pushing 30, so I don't have that anymore. And what was I saying? So at the end of every year, just get a binder, just a public, like a three-ring binder, and organize everything for that year into the 3-ring binder. It's really not that big of a deal to keep records. Now, I'm just reading this real quick. Attendance, really? My state used to do attendance records, and it used to anger me and also tickle me at the same time because I don't know, we're homeschooling. They woke up in their home. Here we are. We don't need attendance. But what I would do is just get a wall calendar and then just put an X on days that you didn't homeschool and maybe a sticker on days you did homeschool. And voila, you've kept attendance. right? If you have multiple children, this change, get 2 different types of stickers or 2 different colors, um, and do it that way. Yeah. No one has given me a knock on the door regarding me or homeschooling or immunizations, and I'm hoping they never will. Someone knocked on my door once. Um, I had a newish neighbor, and she was a former teacher, and she didn't appreciate homeschooling. And so she came to my door one day with history books, and they were age range appropriate. My daughter and son were like 11 and 13, and she brought over middle school history books and said, "I thought you could use these because I don't know what you're teaching your children." And I was very polite and I took them. And my daughter was such a little firecracker. She looked through the books and then she brought them back across the street and said, "I already know this stuff." And then started like asking her homeschool questions that she couldn't, not homeschool history questions that she couldn't answer. History or science, I don't remember. And she got really mad and she called the truancy officer, and he knocked on my door. And this is back when my state did require attendance records, and you had to fill them out and send them in every month. And I was really lax on it because I thought it was ridiculous. And so he knocked on the door, and I told the kids, "Y'all go in the living room." I entered the door, I stepped out on the porch, and he said, "You've been reported for educational neglect." And I was like, "Interesting." And he was like, "So you're homeschooling?" And I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "Do you have your intent to homeschool? And do you have your attendance records?" So I went inside and I got my intent to homeschool form, and I got my attendance records, but I was 2 months back. I showed him what I had, and he said, um, "Go inside and fill out your attendance records for the last 2 months and send them in." And then he pointed over his shoulder and said, "You've got a crazy neighbor who's watching you." And so I just started filling out the attendance records. My state had an online form. And what I did was I just went ahead and filled them out for the whole year. And then I scheduled emails. There was some program I used that scheduled emails. And I just scheduled the emails to go out every month. And then I didn't have to think about it again. And at some point when my kids were in high school, our state went from local homeschool reporting to statewide homeschool reporting, and the state didn't want to deal with it and discontinued us being required to take attendance. Rock my braids, did I help? Is there any other questions that you have there that I did not cover? Meanwhile, I'm still reading your homeschool rules. Uh, um, Yearly evaluations. My daughter was the best and the worst at the same time, because if someone stopped us in the store and said, "Why are your kids home?" My kid would say, "Oh, we don't go to school. We homeschool." And then they would say, "Oh, what are you doing there?" And she'd look them in the eye and say, "We watch TV." And I'd be like, "Why has she done this to me?" We watched a lot of documentaries, but she would do that to me. The last thing is your yearly evaluation. Once they reach high school level, you can just go ahead and take the PSAT every year and then the SAT. But before that, I recommend the California Achievement Test, CAT. And there's an Ohio one as well. They and Family Learning Organization is one company that will mail you the test. Your child will take the test, and you can take it over a period of a few days, and you mail it back to them, and then they send you your scores. And I really like that one. Okay, so I'm gonna call this a wash. I have lost my voice. As I said, when I do a live, it's typically so that I have a video that I don't have to edit. And so I will try to do this every 2 weeks. If I don't, put a note on my latest video and say, "Hey, where's our lives?" Sometimes a girl needs to feel wanted. So I'm so silly. Y'all take care. Okay, until next time. Bye.